Well, that sucked. Book of Boba Fett, episode 7. It's time for our review. Let's rock it! Oh yeah, well, welcome. We are going to be talking about the Book of Boba Fett, and it's called In the Name of Honor, by the way. In the name of... So did it really suck?
Dude.
Apparently you thought it did?
We kind of knew that they were going to have to pull a miracle out of their butts to make the last episode of the season something awesome because of how slow it built to this finale.
Yeah.
But I was surprised at how much it felt like this episode was just kind of rushed and not written as well as it should have been. So,
which we knew going into it because we even said episodes 1 through 4 were like, what's going on? Are they getting to something? And then episodes 5 and 6 were completely The Mandalorian. And then it's like, how are they going to wrap this up? Well,
yeah, I mean,
I
knew
didn't.
how. By that time, I knew how they would wrap it up. They would have to resolve the conflict with the Pike Syndicate, obviously. But
Yep.
I really was hoping that they would resolve it in a more creative way than they did. So.
I feel like a lot of shows do this too. I mean, we used to joke about Star Trek The Next Generation and I mean, all the Star Treks, right? Voyager, Deep Space Nine. It's like they'd build up for 40 minutes and then they would have 5 minutes to resolve this huge build up and then it'd be like, boom, boom, done. And you're like, I mean, and we still loved it, but at the same time, it's kind of like, don't rush the finale here, build up, keep it going, come to the, Lord of the Rings didn't rush the finale.
No, that's true.
And
no, but
we're still going.
Lord of the Rings. Yeah, okay,
and we're still going.
That's fair. Lord of the Rings didn't rush the after finale, whatever that element of the movie is called.
Postlude.
Yeah, whatever the bring down after the climax. They certainly built the climax up just perfect, but then the bring down. Yeah, the afterglow, if you will, of the movie was everyone knows was just drawn out. So which was funny. I kind of thought that was funny. So,
but Book of Boba Fett did not do that. They rushed it, and then all of a sudden it was over, and we're like, I literally I went, wait, what? That's it? Seriously? And I saw that in your notes too that you're like, that's it, and I'm like, yeah, I think most of us kind of went, well, that was anticlimactic. Big time.
Pretty much. I think that seems to be the consensus on the internet as well. So
yeah. Speaking of internet, I know you're having some glitches. So if you freeze up, it's because you're excited and you're frozen with excitement. You just did it. You did it. It was awesome again. Yeah. All right. Well, hey, internet glitches happen, but we're still here. We're going to have fun. But let's talk positives first. The first one that I thought was absolutely hilarious was when we were talking Amy Sedaris.
Oh, Amy Sedaris.
Sedaris, yeah. I did love it though. Like when I saw, first of all, I saw Grogu show up and I'm like, oh, okay, here we go.
We knew it.
We'll talk about that in a minute. But the positive is when she goes, Grogu, that's a terrible name. I was like, thank you. I thought it was too. So anyway, I liked the standoff with Cad Bane at the very beginning. I was a little surprised that, he informed Boba about the Pikes murdering the Tuskens. I mean, of course, I predicted that way back in the early season, but I was surprised that he told them. Or that he told Boba, I guess, all that. So that was kind of cool. But let's just be honest here. In my opinion, the best part of the episode, stole the episode, was the Rancor. He rides in, you hear the roar. I mean, that was the coolest thing ever. The fight was awesome. I mean, I'm sitting here, I was nerding out like crazy, freaking out. And I was literally saying, this is one of the coolest scenes ever, is when you see him come up and he's riding the Rancor and it's just smashing stuff. And it was awesome. I loved it. So for me, that was like the best part of the entire episode. I mean, there's some other positives too. But did you like the Rancor too, or was it just me?
I'm in lockstep with you on this one, Brian. The Rancor was the best, most gratifying part of this episode, hands down.
Okay.
Everything else around it, though.
Well, we'll get to that in a minute.
So
we'll get to that in a minute. All right. So now Boba and Cad Bane. I know you're not a big fan of Cad Bane, but we'll talk. What were you going to say?
Oh, I actually like Cad Bane, especially now that I know more about his past. I was going to say also when he defeated Cad Bane at the end with a Tusken weapon, I thought that was also a pro.
Yes. That was cool.
But there's a huge but there. I really think it would have been more fitting if he'd used that to kill the Pike leader instead, because the Pike leader is the one who caused him to think that it was a biker gang and all that. I mean, killing Cad Bane with it was somewhat gratifying, but they just didn't didn't make as much sense as what they could have done with it. So
I agree. One thing I wanted to mention, I'm going to talk about Cad Bane here in just a second because there was a little bit of a history there that some people probably missed. But I had to bring up, too, that yes, he uses the Tusken weapon, which was amazing. But also, finally, we get to see Boba Fett in the air, which I thought was wonderful. Yeah. It was nice to finally see that. He's up, of course, Mandalorian's up as well. But then he uses those knee rockets, which I thought, okay, that was cool.
A lot, yeah.
Very cool, yeah. So it was nice to kind of see some of his, I don't know, weapons in action, the jetpack in action. I don't know why we haven't seen that the entire season. Why was it only the last episode? So frustrating. It took that long, but good. I'm glad we got to see it at that point. So that was cool. All right, let's talk about Cad Bane really quickly. So Cad Bane, we know a little bit about him, but of course, for those who didn't really know what was going on, you're probably thinking, wait a minute, how does Boba know Cad Bane? Because clearly they knew each other. They were talking about it. So Boba actually met Cad Bane back in the Clone Wars. This was in the animated series. He was around 12 years old at the time, the young Boba Fett. Cad Bane sort of becomes Boba's bounty hunter mentor, kind of teaching him the ways of bounty hunting and stuff like that. And they run together for a time and stuff like that. So that's kind of the history. There's, just a few episodes where they're kind of doing their thing and all that. But when Boba says, hey, you're the old man or you're an old man or something like that, I got curious about that. And I thought, well, yeah, he's been around a while. Mm-hmm. I wonder how old he really is. And so based on the lore, based on, some of the stuff that's out there, I would approximate his age in his early 70s.
Okay.
So that was a little, okay, he's still pretty spry for doing what he's doing. But, you saw him kind of not walking exactly very quickly and as spry as you would expect. He's kind of sauntering around a little bit. So there you go. There's a dude that's in his early 70s out there who's still taking everybody. I mean, he's still kicking Boba's butt with his blaster, which I thought was still it's still showing his power and stuff. But anyway, just so you know a little of the history between Boba and Cad is that they do have a bit of little backstory a little bit.
Right. Yeah, I appreciated that.
I thought the episode was fine. It was really slow in the beginning. I was a little bored. And then that Rancor comes out and all of a sudden I was just like, woo, and I got all excited again. Right. And then it kind of just ended on this incredibly wait, what? Are we done? Anticlimactic note. So there were a lot of frustrations. The Go-Go Power Rangers were coming in and
the Go-Go.
Booyah, and then dark. The whole episode, I'm thinking when is Mando going to pull out his Darksaber and kick butt? Right. Oh, no, he's just going to stupidly, what is that? The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and getting the same result. Let's just keep hitting the shield and bouncing off it over and over. I'm like,
maybe this time it'll get through.
That was frustrating. Let's talk Fennec really quick.
Yeah, Fennec's my favorite part of the series, but go ahead, yeah.
I like Fennec, and in fact, there were some scenes in here where I'm like, yeah, I really do like Fennec, but why, in the name of Sam Hill, or in the name of Anakin Skywalker, did she not go and just, murder the mayor and the Pike leader and all of that in episode 2?
And why didn't Frodo and Sam just fly on an eagle to Mount Doom and drop the ring in the top?
Exactly. That's my point. So... But no, well, okay, so here's the I love that about Lord of the Rings, yes.
Yeah.
And the journey was part of the story, of course. But in this particular situation, I think what cheapens this is that she could have done that in episode 2, and we didn't need to go through all of this.
Right.
What kind of frustrates me is, why was she allowed to just do it in episode 7? It should not have been that easy.
And it was almost like an afterthought. It was we're out of time for the episode, so let's just do this quick. That's what it felt like to me.
I didn't like that. I thought it was a cheap way to kill the mayor off. I thought it was a cheap way to kill the Pike Syndicate leader. To me, it was just nope. Didn't like that.
It was an unimaginative tying of some loose strings, is what it was. So yeah,
very, very lazy. I thought the writing in general was pretty lazy. We talked about that. How are they going to wrap this whole thing up? And they really didn't do a very good job wrapping it up at all. It was one of those we didn't have much of a story to begin with, but we really got people to, get excited for the 2 Mandalorian episodes, but we better wrap this up. We got 1 episode left. So, let's just throw something together and we'll make them happy with a bunch of action and eye candy. And of course the Rancor, but then that was it. And then of course the episode ends with, hey, let's, do it again. Okay, I'll hit the booster. Whee! And I'm like, dear dear God. Like,
That's how they ended the series, the season. Yeah.
That's like ending episode 1 with Jar Jar or something. You know,
Yeah. Totally.
Idiot.
That's exactly right. Yeah. So
That was bad. That was a bad ending. So
there were also
a
lot of sequences that felt contrived, like when Fett and Mando were getting shot on the, like when they were both fighting. First, they come out shooting, on their jetpacks, and that was really cool. And then they drop to the ground and continue shooting, but then they're being overwhelmed with gunfire, and they're all cowering on the ground, like, stop. And then all of a sudden, the Freetown people show up, all 10 of them, and kick
so
butt,
lame.
and then they're like, okay, we're safe. Well, why couldn't they have just jumped out of that situation? Like, oh, we're getting shot too much. Let's go airborne again. So, I mean, just little things like that were just contrived. They were like more of that OK Corral stuff around Cad Bane. I mean, how much OK Corral, where they show his hand next to his holster,
Yeah.
That's so
it's his style.
Played. I know it is, but they just did it too much. They did it too much in this. Whenever Cad Bane was involved, they just overdid that. So,
the other thing that frustrated me too, speaking of when they were laying on the ground and, oh no, please stop. No, Daddy, don't hurt me. When Mandalorian is fighting and, he's about ready to kick butt. He stabs, he gets through the shield and he stabs the spider walker, whatever the heck it was called.
With the Darksaber.
What was it? It was a scorpion walker? I don't even know.
Yes, something like that.
Somebody. Yeah, so he gets it with the Darksaber. He almost kills it. And then he, gets thrown off and all that. And then he's just sitting there. No, please don't hurt me. No, please. It was like watching Austin Powers when he's on the steamroller and it's going like, half a mile an hour and the guy's like 20 feet away. No. And it just goes on. No. It's like, you could have moved by now. That's the same thing. Please don't hurt me. And then of course, Grogu, takes a sweet time walking up. No big deal. I'm just going to walk up.
Waddles back and like one of the cards in Alice in Wonderland. He's kind of waddles into the street. Yeah.
And then he's like, and then he can't even really do anything anyway. And then of course the Rancor comes and everything's great. But I was just like, are you going to roll out of the way? Are you going to use your jetpack to boost you out of the way? Are you going to do anything, Mando? Or are you just going to sit there and take it? He sat there and took it. What?
Oh, and I also thought it was very amusing that those big scorpion droids or whatever they were, they apparently don't have any targeting systems.
No.
I mean, they're literally like Cobra Commander put those out on the battlefield. And,
or stormtroopers.
Just kind of a... And they're like, okay, pew, 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 where they're shooting all over the place, but they're not hitting anything. Yeah.
No, nobody got hit by those droids, actually. I thought that was funny.
Cobra. We'll call them Cobra droids.
Yeah, in which case you have to go, oh my gosh, we're going to die. No, you're not. You can't hit anything. You might as well just go inside and, get a drink or something because they're not going to kill you. They're going to try.
Instead, all of the Freetown and other towns
the Power Rangers showed up.
Are running right down the middle of the street away from the droids instead of scattering into the buildings right next to the street. It's like running away from a giant tall thing that's falling, and you're looking back like,
You're running
instead
away from
of going
a car.
off to either side. You just keep going straight in the movies. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I mean, it's just the thing is, it was funny in the 60s and 70s and a little bit in the 80s, and now it's like, all right, come on, guys, let's get a little smarter. Yeah, that was kind of dumb. The whole, Power Rangers and Freetown, 10 people from Freetown turning the tide was just kind of like, okay. And then Grogu, which really didn't do much of anything until the very end when he put the Rancor to sleep, which, by the way, that was cool because, okay, he got Luke's training. He was able to calm the Rancor, create peace with the Rancor. That's very Jedi-like, which is good.
True.
But let's talk about the other frustration is that you were absolutely right, which I knew you would be. That's the thing. Like when you said that, I'm like, yes, I know that's going to happen, but I don't want it to happen.
Yeah, I don't even feel good about that. So.
I am so frustrated by that choice. And now granted, if it's, let's just say it's Dave Filoni and he has this whole grand scheme in the story that Grogu leaving the Jedi Academy, leaving Luke's training, which by the way, Yoda and Obi-Wan both warned Luke, if you leave now, you're going to be tempted by the dark side and you may or may not turn because your training is not complete. Yeah. They warned him. This was in Empire Strikes Back. But I have to help my friends. But you can't leave. Like, this is a very dangerous time for you. That's what Obi-Wan said.
Right.
Same thing just happened now with Grogu. So if they really want to do it right, then they need to have a master story arc that goes along with this, where Grogu is either going to be tempted by the dark side, he's going to become the dark side. He's going to become a Sith, or there's going to be some amazing little story that comes where he overcomes it, comes back to the light side, but there's going to be collateral damage, et cetera, et cetera. If there's a story arc there, then I'm fine with what just happened.
Yeah.
If they did it to sell plush dolls and have that cute factor in Mandalorian season 3, I'm not happy about that.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, his only contribution to the battle was put the Rancor to sleep. And did his Mithril shirt even come into play at all?
Nope.
Sorry, I'm calling it Mithril. Beskar, his Beskar shirt. I mean, it didn't. So, I mean, that doesn't mean it won't in Mandalorian 3 in season 3, but I mean, it was so anticlimactic and so goofy and so unimaginative that it makes a lot of people not want to see Mandalorian season 3. They just didn't put enough thought into the writing of this whole thing, in my opinion. So, and
I really am tired of Mandalorian, holding, Grogu as he's in the middle of a fight and stuff, like he's a little child. I mean, he kind of is, but just the whole, it just feels, I don't know. For some reason, it just does. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just like it just doesn't fit. Maybe that's what it is. It's just it feels so out of place with what's going on around us. You've got cute little Grogu being held on Mando's chest, and just warm next to my breast, Grogu. And then you've got Boba Fett stabbing Cad Bane with a Tusken weapon, murdering him. That just feels...
Yeah, there's a weird dichotomy there, right?
Yeah.
And not to mention that Twi'lek. How annoying was that guy? Honestly, I mean, he was
from the beginning. He was annoying.
Yeah, it's just way too much of that guy.
Oh, please, let me be the diplomat. Can you please? You know what I was really wishing? I'm not going to lie. Like when he was out there talking to them, and he's like, "Oh, may I, speak? I might have an alternative." Yeah. I was just waiting for Mandalorian to pull out the Darksaber and just like right in front of his face, ignite the Darksaber across his face and just be like, one more word. He was kind of Jar Jar like too, very annoying. Like, please don't give him so much screen time.
Yeah, he was a very Jar Jar character. He was like the Jar Jar character in this, certainly this episode. I mean, and Baby Yoda's the other Jar Jar character, to be honest. I mean, they're both kind of, they're just annoying characters. They just really are.
He didn't, Grogu in season 1 of The Mandalorian, I was fine with. I loved him. In fact, I was excited for him, and I couldn't wait to see him again. Yeah. Season 2, though, it's like, oh, wow, we didn't realize how popular he'd become, and look how many toys and plush dolls we've sold. And, wow, this is amazing. So then they went over the top in season 2. Yeah. And I think that's what's, just to clarify, I personally do not hate Grogu. I just do not like the direction that they took with him and that they've been taking with him. They're over abusing his cuteness and his, infant like thing in order to manipulate audiences into loving this and buying their toys and merchandise is what it feels like. Now, I'm not saying that's what they're doing, but that's what it feels like. And so it's become insulting to me. And I know it has to you as well. Even though I like Grogu and I'm ready for him to come into age, though. So
yeah, me too. I mean, it's just they could have done Grogu. I mean, the way they did him in season 1 of Mandalorian was more or less acceptable, and it was it was fine. I mean, I didn't mind it. But then you're exactly right. They overdid it in season 2, and that's the direction they've taken him ever since. And they could have. There's so many ways that this series and The Mandalorian could have just been written more intelligently. It just could have.
Yes, I completely agree. And I think, you look at the end, and again, it was just like the mayor's killed so easily. The Pike Syndicate leader is killed easily. We're going to bring back Cobb Vanth, in the back to tank, and with the cyberpunk guy, we're going to, nobody dies. Everybody's fine. It's no big deal. By the way, did they actually kill off the Pike Syndicate as a whole? I mean, aren't there other people, so they're still going. And then, you see Boba and Fennec, walking down the streets and everybody's bowing to him.
Nodding at everyone.
Nodding. And okay, that's really cool.
Everyone loves us.
It's like it just cuts and all of a sudden it's the Mandalorian flying off with the Mandalorian music with Jar Jar.
Grogu being annoying.
I'm sorry, Grogu. And then it was just like, it just was kind of one of those like, did they just finish the episode? Or it seems like there should be more. What's going on?
So we get an episode 8?
That's why it just felt so bizarre to me, and it was weird. And then again, it felt lazy. But I don't want to like beat a dead horse here. So
Yeah.
Those are some of the frustrations I had. One last one I'm going to say is that the Rancor CGI in the first half was really good. And then in the second half, dude, it was borderline the Ewok adventure from 1980, whatever that was. Oh, it was getting pretty bad towards the end. I was looking at that and I'm like, oh my gosh, that looks terrible. Huh. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't notice it personally, but I trust you.
It looked like stop motion, like the claymation.
Really?
It started to look like that towards the end. If you go back and now granted, I was watching on my 4K monitor, and so I was like, oh, I was really noticing that. First part, it was really good, but yeah, it's almost like they ran out of money. It was kind of funny.
I wouldn't be surprised for somehow. I don't know how Disney runs out of money, but yeah.
I don't know. All right, so let's wrap this up. Let's give our overall thoughts to the episode and then also the season, the series as a whole. Here's the other thing. Are we getting a season 2 of Boba Fett? It didn't look like it. It looks like it's all about the Mandalorian now. So, which begs the question on why did we just even have season 1, period? But anyway, what are your overall thoughts of the episode and the season?
All right. Well, in summary, I'm very, very disappointed in this finale. Incredibly little imagination was put into this series. Totally underwhelming as far as overall plot and what specifically happens in the episode. The one coolish part with the Rancor, but in general, it was written almost purposely bad. Like the creators knew they were crashing and burning and just threw in the towel. I don't know. I can see myself forgetting this ever happened, and that's just too bad. I'm not even looking forward to Obi-Wan anymore because I just no longer trust Disney to give the Star Wars franchise its due diligence. It sounds like it, but I'm not mad or even bitter about it, honestly. I'm just very done with Star Wars at this point. I gave this episode a 5 out of 10, which is awful, and the series an overgenerous 6 out of 10 as a result of the last episode. Because honestly, the final episode in any series arguably should be the best episode in that series. So, and it wasn't.
Yeah, it doesn't always happen that way, but I would encourage you to consider watching the animated. You're not going to like every episode, but overall the Clone Wars, Rebels, Bad Batch, those 3 in particular, they're really good. They do a nice job with them. They are more meant for a younger audience because they're animated. But the storytelling is far better in those than, what we're getting in the live action stuff. Right. And the audience is clear. We're hitting a younger audience and, parents of that audience that are Star Wars fans. And we're telling stories and we're bringing stuff into the lore that was not originally on the lore, stuff like that. It's mostly Dave Filoni. So I would encourage that. I think you would like that kind of Star Wars. I am worried now about Boba Fett or Obi-Wan as well. When I first watched this episode, I thought, I enjoyed it. I had fun. There were things that were frustrating me, and I was just like, just got to get it out of my head and just enjoy the episode. And just, I wasn't expecting much. I was expecting to be slightly let down because I knew that they were going to try to wrap stuff up in a way that I didn't think they could. So I went in with those expectations. As a result, I enjoyed the ride a little more than I think I would have. But then after thinking about it overnight, I have to say that the episode was just okay. I mean, really, it was just, I didn't hate it. Yeah. Now, of course, I love to nerd it out on the Rancor scene, as I've said a few times now. The rest of the episode clearly was disjointed. It was lazy. We've talked about this. I had fun, but the story was meh. It was full of holes, actually, like some of the stuff I've mentioned. Now, as far as the season, this is going to be a little mean, Captain, but I believe that the season overall was a failure. Okay. I really believe it is. And here's why, is because the first episode was interesting and it showed promise, but it concerned us. We talked about that. The second episode was actually good. I liked that one. It was finally doing some cool development. We had good flashbacks. We started to understand why Boba is the way he is.
Right.
3 and 4 to me were kind of meh. There were good moments. That was that terrible speeder chase scene, the CGI, Right. I don't remember, honestly, even what happened in those episodes, and I just watched them a few weeks ago.
Yeah, not really me either. That's interesting.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Those 2 episodes, I don't remember much about them.
And how did they advance the story? I don't think they did.
Yeah.
And then, of course, episodes 5 and 6 had absolutely nothing to do with Boba Fett at all. It was all Mandalorian. So my question comes, and then, of course, we talked about 7, but my question is, why did we even have this show at all? Really?
Yeah.
Maybe there's an argument for it, but I would be curious to know if there's an argument for it, because it was a weak story. Like, why wasn't Boba's story just part of Mandalorian season 3 episodes?
I can play devil's advocate here and say that they could be considering, and they probably were considering, the Book of Boba Fett to be like an interlude. So like an intermission between seasons of Mandalorian, just to keep the ball rolling. Now you could say, well, then why couldn't they, to keep the ball rolling, why couldn't they just make this Mandalorian season 3 and have it about Boba Fett for the first half of the season?
Yeah.
Would we then be complaining about, why is this called Mandalorian season 3? It's about Boba Fett half the time. I don't know.
Well, no, it would have had to involve the Mandalorian. So like, let's just say this, for example, season 3 of the Mandalorian starts off, episodes 1 and 2 would have been what we had episodes 5 and 6 here in Boba Fett. That would have been episodes 1 and 2 of Mandalorian, except it wouldn't have involved Boba Fett yet.
Right. Okay.
Then he shows up and says, Fennec's there and says, okay, can you come help? Okay, cool. It's on me, but I need to go see a friend first. Still part of Mandalorian. He goes and he sees his friend. Obviously, Luke shows up. We all get excited, blah, blah, blah. Then he goes to Tatooine. And then let's just say episodes 3, 4, and 5 of The Mandalorian were all about his experience on Tatooine, working with Boba Fett. At the same time, we're getting flashbacks of Boba Fett. Even though it's still very Mandalorian based and the Mandalorian is still the main person, we're starting to get like, oh, how did he get out of the Sarlacc pit? And, why is he the way he is now? Well, now there's flashbacks and stuff. Right. It ties together. Point. Okay. And then you go into episodes, 6 and 7 and 8 or whatever of Mandalorian to finish off the series with just him. I think that would have been more than sufficient. Having an entire show dedicated to Boba Fett, I was excited. Right. It should have worked, but it didn't. And I think it was a dumb idea, truthfully. I think it was a great idea with dumb execution, poor execution. They didn't do it right. So,
yeah, I agree. But
here's the thing. Yep. I'll say my last thing is that the show is still fun for me to watch. Like, I don't feel like I wasted my life or even wasted any time watching it. There are times where I'll watch something and I go, wow, I can't get those 2 hours back. I didn't feel that at all. I have no regrets with this show. But in the grand scheme of Star Wars, I felt like this was just a completely useless show and they just didn't do it right. That's really what it comes down to.
And I agree. Yep.
It's been fun going through the season.
Yeah, it has.
I'm not sure we'll do this again, but we had fun. So anyway, well, thank you for joining us, though. We'd love to hear your comments, by the way. So comments below, please let us know what you thought of the Book of Boba Fett overall. Whether you agreed with us, whether you disagree with us. We'd love to just hear, because here's the other thing that's so beautiful. Everybody sees things differently. There's something out there for everyone. This is just our opinions. This is just how we took it. So, I know a lot of people were disappointed, and I know some people said that this was the best episode of Boba Fett yet. So
that's great.
Everybody has different perspectives and all that. Ours are not right or wrong. And so it's just, we'd love to hear what your perspective was, and let's have a fun discussion. So please comment below. Anything else is in the show notes below. And, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.